Hello everyone. So we have already done two analysis on two different researches, and this time in the same line we are doing the third one. The subject we have today is contemporary caste problem in India, and the researcher is G.K. Karanth. Remember, I'm doing these analysis on the subjects from the one book that is Caste by M.N. Srinivas. So today let's deal with this third important research. The research is very vast, deep, and it gives us many insight about caste system in India. So what I decided for you, I am trying to make it more convenient so that you could absorb things. So what I did with this entire reading, that I concluded this entire understanding my analysis on it with three important questions, which means this understanding of this search responds three important questions, and these important questions are: number one, that how caste system got perpetuated throughout from the ancient phase to almost the modern age, right before the constitution, you can say. Second question to which it responds is how the caste identity and the system in India got weakened gradually after the commencement of the Indian constitution. And the third, which is important, that how the caste problem is still subsist and is still become a key in the Indian society, that still is served as an identity of Indian society. So these three important questions are very well responded by the research of G.K. Karanth, Contemporary Caste in India. So let's begin with the first question. To the very first question, we have number of examples given in the research, but I will not start with the example first. Let me tell you this, that Indian caste system before independence or throughout the ancient phase to the medieval to the modern, it was regulated by certain system in India which is called caste panchayat, or you can also say caste council. The research reveals it that to perpetuate caste system in India, there has to be a certain instrument or system that could ensure that the caste system should be throughout practiced in the Indian society. And therefore this system called the caste council or the caste panchayat literally assisted the caste system to continue to flourish and thrive throughout. What this caste panchayat is all about? See, the composition of the caste system was such that all elderlies were the member of this caste panchayat. The only purpose for this caste panchayat was appointed as a committee to ensure that the caste system should perpetuate in the society, which means there should not be any violation against this very caste identities or the caste system in India. So the members appointed as the part of this caste council had the specific work to do, in which they ensured that the people of the different caste must be bound by their practices as imposed on them. It means that every person from every caste must be following certain duties, in which major duties were prioritized. For example, practicing endogamy is one of those important practice and part and parcel of the Indian caste system. So to perpetuate this endogamy practice in the social system was actually a major task by this caste council. Person who happens to violate and infringe any rules as laid down in the books prescribed by these elders was supposed to be subject to punishments. Remember, the caste council works on a certain system. That system has rules written in this. Similarly, the constitution. So all these members ensured that the rules, all these caste council must be strictly followed and abided by all members of the people. It was not just limited to practice endogamy within the caste system. It also focused on maintaining purity in the blood, which itself is directly governed by the caste system, which means the practice of endogamy. Other important rules were also part of this caste council, and to which all these members of different castes were bound. But these were the major important task or the rules which had to be given extra care, because the violation of these rules seemed as a direct threat to the stability of the caste system in India. Therefore, we can say that for the long time, centuries after centuries, the caste system continued to be a key identity of the Indian system. This particular research reveals in this way. Now, this was just the one instrument which helped and facilitated caste system in India. The second one, even more important, that is Sanskritization. What it means, every community has a certain burden on them that they have to do a little copy of the higher caste people's conduct. Eventually, it was on the part of the lower caste that they should copy the conduct of the higher caste, and the practices which were to be copied by these lower caste as already been discussed, such as practicing endogamy. Second, to be worshipping god and deities within the home, which is quite acceptable. Third, to be maintaining a certain rule as prescribed under the caste council. For example, purity as a major subject or concern was always dealt with extra concern. So for example, during menstruation, women were not allowed in the kitchen for cooking food. Certain practices were adopted by the lower caste people, and they also followed the same, strengthening caste identity in the system within the Indian social system. And that's how the caste system perpetuated throughout for several centuries. So these two important instruments, first the caste council, which is called the caste panchayat, and second is Sanskritization, which mean doing emulation or the copying of the conduct of the higher caste people by the lower caste people. Now the second question to which this research respond is, what made caste as a practice in the society weakened after the commencement of the Indian Constitution? This question is literally important because, first of all, the research somewhere implicitly accepts that the caste system, if not completely, but still got weakened, and the major credit is given to the commencement of the Indian Constitution. It's really simple to identify this very fact that before the commencement of the Constitution, it was caste council, as we have discussed in the previous question, and that was the sole authority to do the all purposes important, significant, to hold caste values intact. After the commencement of the Indian constitutions, all these bodies were scrapped, which means abolished, and therefore it certainly weakened the caste system, which means there were left no such agencies which were commissioned with this very task of retaining caste practices within the country. However, the caste practices were ingrained in the practices, so abolishing of these instruments such as caste panchayats did not play a significant role in abolishing this very caste system in the country, but still it weakened the caste identity within the community, and the sole credit is given to the commencement of the Indian Constitution. One more thing which is seen in affiliation to this, that what made Indian caste system so powerful that it reigned for over thousands of years. Yes, the credit has already been given to the caste council and the peoples practicing and copying the conduct of the upper caste, but other rules were also significant, and that also needed to be understood with extra concern. So for example, what happened in this case? See, it was not just Sanskritization that perpetuated this caste practice within the country. One other factor played a key role in thriving this caste practices, and that was that hereditary occupational concept. Remember, Indian people were seen with their occupation inherited to them, and that was alone to give them identity to the society. For example, washerman was given this identity through his occupation called washing clothes, and that became the caste. Similarly, we had other people and the occupations such as fisherman doing fishing, given this caste as its identity based on occupation. Understand? Throughout the time, people enjoyed these occupations, and therefore their occupations became their caste, and they were associated with it for several centuries. In fact, caste council also ensured this part of Indian society, that no person should take separation from their occupation, which actually gives them the identity as a caste. And for a long time, it became subsisted with the Indian society, and this unfortunately the caste system to grow more, and people practiced it. One more important which strengthened this very occupational based caste identity is the patron client relationship, as what is revealed in the research. Earlier, patronage were those kings or the powerful people who gave a certain kind of relaxations on certain things to different communities, and in return these people assisted them with their services, and these services were seen as their occupations and thus giving them a caste identity. So for example, a fisherman remained to be a fisherman, and his job cannot be snatched away by the third person community, right? And that was what's ensured by the patrons. So patrons client relationship significantly sustain this very occupational driving caste system. So third question, which is the last question to this video, and that is that what makes India still today a caste dominating society even after 75 years of the independence? The question is very interesting, and so is the answer, which is revealed in the research. To this, we need to understand what is dominant caste. See, research reveals that dominant caste is supposed to be the one that's social, economical and political condition of the society is very powerful and elevated comparing to other people falling in different communities. And the community having this strong social, economical and political identity often played as a dominant role in the city. Now, two important instances are recorded in the research. Number one, what happens in this case, this fellow man lives in Tamil Nadu, buys a ticket to watch a movie in the theatre. He goes to the theatre and watches the movie. While he is watching movie, one of his feet touches one of the fellow person who is sitting in the next row. Later it is found out that this person comes from SC/ST community, and the other person to whom his feet touches just enraged in anger and starts beating him brutally. He identified this person belonging to a certain SC/ST caste, and later on this upper caste person decides to teach a lesson to the entire community. The purpose for doing it, which is also registered in the research, that the upper caste living in those areas had this very strong feeling against these SC/ST people, that they were always living in a denial state. For example, they never accepted that people from the lower caste should enjoy things which the basically privileges of the upper caste people. And what happened thereafter, that the upper caste people, this man did a certain thing which explicitly defines what is dominating caste. So this man invites all people from other lower caste communities and tell him to stop giving their services to this man. And soon after, the family finds the condition completely incongenial to live and survive, and at the end of the day they have to leave that region and get settled up somewhere in the other region of Tamil Nadu. So that's how this dominating caste is defined by this incident. So a dominating caste doesn't need to be the one belonging to that is numerically high, but that particular community must be socially, economically and politically very powerful. And that's what happened in this case, that how this man ordered other communities fellows to act, and all these people had to act accordingly. So washerman denied his service to that man, fisherman denied his service to that fellow SC person, and that's how these people were suppressed. That is how the dominating caste is decided and determined in the which seems to be quite accepting. Even today this happens to a certain extent, but not completely. So that's how this dominating caste in today's century, after 75 years of the Indian independence, is still play a very crucial role in fueling up this caste practice within the community. As we see today that in most of the big offices and the positions, few communities members are sitting, and they play a very dominant role on everything, which means they have the power of manipulating with things important, equally important to all section of people. Person who really needs to have service from these people sitting at the highest position have to be showing this obsequious attitude towards them reasonably, because that tomorrow they might be denied for the same services. It is just like India is being threatened by some superpower countries such as America, and threatened with sanction of economy or somewhat, and therefore as a result India has to act accordingly, according to the instructions laid down by America. Similarly, this caste system gives the similar insight as to how this dominating caste continues to support this caste system within the country. That is what is revealed in the research. So These three important questions are responded in this way, and I think you must also go through this. I'm trying to summarize it in a more simple and easy to understand language. I hope you will understand this and appreciate this very effort of mine. We will meet with the next analysis on the fourth research from the same book. Till then, take care. Bye bye.